Welcome back to BrickWorld Therapy. Today we're going to be building the Harry Potter clock tower set and talking about basic training. Stay tuned. So entrance to basic training begins at the MEPS Center, which is an acronym for Military Entrance Processing Stations. Basically, they go through and they test whether or not you have the proper physical qualifications, aptitude, and moral standards for whichever branch of service that you're going to. So I chose to join the Coast Guard, and of course all the military branches are the same for the MEPS for the United States. So you're there with Marine Corps, you're there with Army, Air Force, Navy, and Coast Guard, all of us. And I'm sure Space Force now too, since they're a newer branch. Anyway, when I went in, they didn't exist. So MEPS, my MEPS experience kind of blurred together. It was a process going over 2 days or 48 hours. I stayed at the DoubleTree in Portland, Oregon. While I was attending that, I wasn't allowed to leave because they want to keep tabs on you once you join there. You sign all your paperwork and everything, and I took my oath, my military oath, while at MEPS, and then I was shipped off to Cape May, New Jersey for my Coast Guard training. MEPS process was pretty simple. They take you through the physical evaluations. You have to take the ASVAB, which is the Armed Services. I don't know what ASVAB stands for. You have to take the ASVAB, which is a test that tests for your aptitude for the military. I took that in high school, my junior year, so I didn't have to retake it. Anyway, so shipped off to basic with one other person from my area for the Coast Guard. So you show up to basic at night on a bus with everybody else that is recruited for your company. In the Coast Guard, we call them companies. And our company was so large that it got divided into two. So we had a sister company, two different groups. And they're called drill instructors, but we had temporary, what we call company commanders. So it's the same thing as a drill sergeant or drill instructor for other branches, but we call ours a company commander. Now we were picked up, or we were dropped off by the bus, and of course immediately you're getting yelled at, because you're going to be yelled at the entire time and you need to get used to it. So our first night didn't end until early in the morning. Honestly, I can't even tell you what time it was, because you have to go through and get your uniforms. Well, the first week, from what I remember, and I could be wrong because my memory is pretty horrible right now. What I remember, we had our PT gear, our physical training gear, which was basically we had sweats, we had t-shirts, and we had shorts. Most of us actually wore our sweats over our t-shirt and shorts, just because it was easier that way. And you stayed warmer. Cape May, New Jersey can get really cold in the winter, and I went during the fall and was there through winter. I was there for an extended period of time, which I will get more into because of some complications. And yeah, okay. First week is all medical, and so you get your shots, you get your teeth looked at. I got my new glasses, which they're called BC glasses, which is an acronym that's supposed to stand for boot camp glasses, but everybody called them birth control glasses because no one looks good in them. They are horrible. They're these huge rimmed, ugly brown, and oh man, they were the worst. You couldn't wear contacts in basic. I don't contacts anyway because my eyes are too sensitive, but man, those things were horrible. I hated those things. They were so awful. Anyway, so first week is all medical. Get your vision taken care of. Women are tested to see if they're pregnant or not, because it's very high stress, and if you're pregnant, chances are you're going to end up miscarrying. Make sure you're not sick. They give you a whole bunch of injections for immunizations. I got hit with the they're like air guns for shots, but they put multiple injections into one, and then they like shoot you in the arm with it, but they're not needles. I don't know how it works. Either way, you're standing in a line and you get hit 3 times with these. We also had a smallpox vaccine, which is way older, or way later. We do that later in the, I can't remember exactly which week, but you're about halfway through basic training before you get your smallpox vaccine, because that one's brutal. I hated that one. Anyway, so first week, all medical, paperwork, all that stuff. You learn some very, very basic information in the classroom. And then at the end of that first week, you meet your company commanders that are going to be taking you through the rest of your training. And that is a very intimidating experience. They walk in, we call them Smokey the Bear hats because of the way that their covers are shaped. Covers are hats, for those of you wondering. The brims are pulled down, so like state trooper hats kind of. They're pulled down super low so you can't really see their eyes, and it's really intimidating when you see that, because none of them are smiling. They are the best poker faces I've ever seen. They don't laugh, nothing. They don't even smirk unless they're thinking something really, really horrible, like incentive training. They call it incentive training. Basically, it's you getting a heck of a workout. We said we were getting beat, but it's not physically beating. You're just getting a huge workout, push-ups, sit-ups, all that jazz. Met them. My first company had 3 company commanders, 2 males, 1 female. And the female was brutal. She was brutal. So whenever you had the opportunity, you always helped your shipmates out, because we're a team. Coast Guard, you're a team, you work as a team, that's how it works. If later on in your training, if one person does something wrong, you all get punished, because if one person does something wrong, everybody is blamed because you should have stopped them, or should have helped them, should have done something. The whole motto was that if you screwed up in real life, somebody could die. And it wasn't just somebody who signed up for going to war, it was usually a civilian, because that's what we did. We protected our coast and we protected civilians. It's what the Coast Guard is for. Honor, respect, and devotion to duty is our core values, and those things are beat into your head over and over and over again until you get it. There's actually a section on discipline, and if I started reading the first few words, I'd probably be able to spit out the rest of it verbatim. Right now it's kind of eluding me, but there is a paragraph on the definition of devotion, or definition of discipline, definition for the word discipline in the Coast Guard manual, and we had to reread it out loud on the quarterdeck over and over and over again. Now the quarterdeck is like the main area outside of where your barracks are. Barracks are rooms where we slept, and it's usually where our company commanders were. It had their offices, all that stuff, and usually if you were hanging out there, you usually got in trouble. Well, you did get in trouble. You were not to hang out there for anything. You're not allowed to hang out anywhere, really, in basic. Everything's structured. You have places to be at times of the day, except for like religious hours during Sundays, which I usually just stayed in the barracks, working on my uniforms, keeping them all squared away, or kept neat and tidy is what squared away means, basically. So at one point the females had finished with our racks. There's a specific way you have to make your beds or your racks, and we had made ours and we were done, so we were helping the males of the company. Now, for females to go into male birthing, males are not allowed in female birthing at all unless they're on fire watch and they're checking. But females could go into the male barracks because it's the larger barracks, and sometimes the company commanders would have something to teach us, so we would go in there. And the rule is that if one female was doing more than just walking through the barracks, all of them had to be there. And when a female needed to go through, you had to like whack on the door and say female requesting transit to walk through the barracks area, and they would actually have to have somebody say permission is granted, because reasons, don't want to see any guys changing or, inappropriate things. Anyway, privacy and all that. So we were helping our shipmates with their racks and everything, and one of my shipmates, the male shipmates, didn't pay attention to where he was going, and I wasn't paying attention to what was going on, which is why I pay attention to everything now. So there was a misunderstanding. I wasn't paying attention, he wasn't paying attention, and while I was helping a shipmate make their rack, my arm was extended. And I was in the process of bringing my arm down, but he had walked into my arm, and because he was a lot shorter than me, I'm 5'11", he was a lot shorter, I could shoot 4 inches, 6 inches, something. Anyway, he's a lot shorter than me. So because of his height, my arm was at the right height to catch him around the neck when he was walking past and not paying attention. So because neither one of us were paying attention, it had looked like I had my arm wrapped around his neck when a company commander came in. The female company commander came in. And she accused me of having an inappropriate relationship with my shipmate, which wasn't true at all. And I found out later in my actual paperwork, she said that I was wrestling with my shipmate, which again wasn't true, and I had witnesses that stated that it wasn't true. So I got to move a rack out onto the quarterdeck, which is where I slept, which was great because you have no privacy. You don't have any privacy in basic to begin with, but it's even worse because there are literally people standing next to you while you sleep. Super awkward. And you have your locker inspected whenever. So I ended up getting reverted, which is being sent back a week to another company. I can't tell you exactly which week this had happened because basic started to blur together for me. I want to say it was week 4 or week 3. Probably week 3. Anyway, so I was sent back a week into a new company. I had to meet new people, new company commanders, which they all have their little quirks. So it's like getting a new boss and being told how one thing was being done is going to be now changed to a different way of being done. And so I was the final straw for me being sent back was because in my locker, your gloves are supposed to go palm together in your locker. And the thumbs of the gloves are supposed to be facing a certain direction. And my gloves were reversed. So instead of my thumbs being pointed to the left of the locker, they were pointed to the right of the locker. And that was enough reason for them to get rid of me. Attention to severe detail, which I started paying a lot of attention to. That was one of my first lessons in basic, was attention to detail. Don't get close to anyone, which was hard. So my next company was pretty hard. We had 4 company commanders for that one because it was a larger company. They didn't have a sister company like I had before, and it was interesting because they were different. So the cadences, when you're marching, you sing cadences to keep pace with when you're running. Every military branch has them, as far as I know. They're all different, but we have them. Now, in my first company, they wanted you to shout them as loud as you could. And in my new company, they wanted them to be saying. If you sounded like crap, they were not happy. So I had to relearn that. In this company, so I don't remember a whole lot about this company. I do remember that I ended up going to firefighter training in this one, and that was the same week that I got reverted again. And this time I was accused of lying. And this one really hurts me. It probably broke me more than anything else. And so we were sitting on the quarterdeck we had rifles. At one point we had gotten our rifles, and we did training and everything with them. Mostly it was just to build muscle and everything, I think, because the barrels were lead lined or lead filled, so they couldn't be fired. But there were certain movements that we did for our training with them. So one of the things that we had to do is we would sit in what they would call sniper position. This is not a position that any sniper alive would ever sit in. They have you sitting crisscrossed. Your legs are crisscrossed, so kind of like a little pretzel. In America, a lot of people will say it's sitting like an Indian, Native American, sitting cross-legged. Anyway, you'd sit like that, and you'd sit up straight holding your rifle like you're aiming it, but you have to aim it down at the ground or up at the ceiling so you're not pointing it at anyone. A really, really uncomfortable position to be sitting in. It hurts your back, it hurts your arms. It's just very uncomfortable way to sit down. Anyway, so another company was walking by, and I noticed one of my shipmates from my company had gotten hit in the knee by the butt end of a rifle. And I didn't actually speak. I did mouth the words, I mimed the words, "Are you okay?" And he kind of nodded. Well, one of the company commanders saw that, and of course it's another female one, and she freaked out. She asked why, she was accusing us of talking, and he said that I had asked if he was okay, and I said I mouthed the words, "Are you okay?" I didn't actually speak, and she accused me of lying, which wasn't true. I said that I had mouthed the words, "Are you okay?" I did tell them that's what happened. He didn't get in trouble. Only I got in trouble. I got in trouble for asking my shipmate if they were okay, essentially is what it came down to. Then I ended up getting... This is where part of my trauma comes in, because I was on one side of safety glass, the glass that has the wire mesh in it. She was on the other side of it, and she was just yelling at me, accusing me of lying, accusing me of not being good enough for the Coast Guard, accusing me of all this stuff. And she picked up the guidon, which is what the colors or the flags and stuff are carried on. It's called a guidon. It's like a huge it's a huge pole that has a pointy end at the top, and it has your colors and everything on it. And she picked that up and hurled it like a javelin at me. Granted, I had safety glass there, so it stuck in the safety glass, but it would have hit me in the face if that glass wasn't there. And that scared the ever-living... I was in shock. I was definitely in shock because of that. I can't have things thrown around me anymore. And that was really scary to me. Anyway, so I ended up getting sent back another week to a new company. And in this company, I did not talk to anyone. I didn't make friends. I only spoke when somebody spoke to me. I was in a daze the entire time I was there. I went through firefighting training for a second time, and I helped my shipmates understand what was going on there and what to expect. So I helped them out in ways that they needed to be helped out, but there was one female who tried to be friends with me, and I said, I'm not here to make friends. I wasn't there to make friends. And I never said anything about being in danger. I lost my appetite just because I was under a lot of stress, and I don't eat much to begin with. Never have, never will. I can eat one meal a day and be perfectly fine, even if I'm working out or doing whatever. I just don't eat a lot. I don't need a lot of food. Before, in my other companies, I was eating to the point where if I had to do incentive training right after we ate, I would hurl. That's how full I was, because I'm not used to eating that much. So anyway, I get brought into the company commander's office, and I think it was Petty Officer Smith. He called me in to the Charlie company commander's offices, and he said that I was being rephased, which is different from being reverted. Reverted, you're being sent back for some sort of punishment. Rephased means you're being sent back for another reason. And I think he was worried about how I responded, because I said, can I ask why? And using the proper, you have to use the proper terminology, company commander or Petty Officer Smith, seaman recruit, whatever, or this recruit requests to know the reasoning behind this decision, which specific phrasing and everything. And he said that one of my fellow shipmates came to him saying that I was suicidal, and I said I wasn't suicidal, and he said, at this point he had allowed me to talk frankly with him. I still use the terms and everything. I didn't break what's called military bearing. He tried to make me feel more comfortable to talk to him to find out what was going on, but I never broke my military bearing because it had been beaten into my head to not do that. And he read through my record, And he seemed kind of shocked about it. So anyway, I continued talking to him, and he said, this unfortunately isn't a choice that I can decide because it's out of my hands already. Because the company chief had already decided, their superior officer had already decided on the course of action to send me back. I eventually had to go to the training commander, Lieutenant Commander Blood at the time, and actually talk to her. And let me tell you, talking to a redhead female officer by the name of Lieutenant Commander Blood is not a comfortable thing to do, especially when I have to talk to her at night, because that's the only time that she had available. I ended up being put into another company, and one of my new company commanders was a chief, and he had asked me what was going on. He asked me to break military barrier and tell him what was going on, and I explained everything to him. And he said, okay, this is going to be your last chance here. And so I said, okay. And I fought to stay in. I fought to be there. I didn't want to just leave. I wasn't going to just leave and give up. So I ended up staying in basic. I had worked so hard to stay in, to continue my training. The petty officer that threw the javelin at me actually talked to me multiple times, and she showed up to my graduation and said that she was proud of me. I was still scared out of my mind of her because she had hurled a javelin at my face, essentially. But I don't know, I guess I got her respect a little bit because I worked so hard to stay in after so many obstacles. I don't know. I never spoke to her again after that. And of course, I'm not going to say any of their names here outside of the one petty officer because he was being helpful to me. I eventually graduated. Even if you have a perfect basic training experience, you grow and you change with it. You mature in a way that high school doesn't allow for. And I don't regret joining at all. Even though the experiences that I had were trying, I don't regret it. Anyway, thank you for sticking around to listen to my basic training story time. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button if you liked the way that the video went. Don't forget to subscribe. Hope you all have a great day.